What is up, everybody? Josh Tapp here again, and welcome back to the Lucky Titan podcast. And today we are here with Deacon Hayes. So excited to have him here today because Deacon is actually kind of the yin to the yang for one of the episodes we just launched. We talked about with Jack McCall about his, taking on debt in a business to be able to scale your company. And I wanted to bring in Deacon because he's all about leveraging money really to become more successful, not only in your business, but in life. And I'm excited to have him on here because unlike most entrepreneurs, Deacon has really set himself up as really just an educational hub. Most of us, like even myself included, every time we do something, we kind of do it with the intention of selling our products. But Deacon's really here just to educate and provide great value. And I'm really excited to have him here. But I'm just going to hard pitch his website for all of you because I don't know if he's going to do it. So you can check out everything that we talk about here and everything that he covers as far as making money, saving money, investing, and lots of other different things, including in the money. You can check it out at wellkeptwallet.com. Is that correct, Deacon?
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. Well, Deacon, say what's up to everybody, and then let's hop in, man.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to be here. This is exciting.
Yeah, it'll be a fun interview. I'm excited because we can do it unscripted and just kind of flow from here. So my big question for you, Deacon, starting off is, everybody obviously wants to know like a short version of your journey of like how you actually got into teaching people about managing money.
Yeah, so it started with me making poor financial decisions, right? So I grew up, my mom was a single mom on welfare, didn't really know a lot about money growing up. So when I got older, I got credit cards, I went out and bought stuff and I racked up a bunch of debt and realized like, oh my gosh, like I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So I need to figure this out. So fast forward, I get married, my wife and I combine our finances and we're like, holy crap, we got $52,000 of debt and we're just starting life out, right? Like if we keep this trend, we're going to have like, and this is not mortgage debt. This is just outside of mortgage debt, right? So I had hundreds of thousands of dollars of mortgage debt. I had a rental property, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I need to figure this out. So I like to study from people that have been successful. So I was like, oh, okay, I've heard of Dave Ramsey. I went to his class. I learned some stuff from him. Another guy named Ron Blue, Clark Howard, Susie Orman, you name it, Jim Cramer. I'm like, hey, I want to figure out everything I can about money. I was like, man, I actually like this stuff, right? And so at the time I was selling wood flooring. And I'm like, hey, if we could pay off our 52 grand in 18 months, because I like to set a goal, like set a deadline and say, hey, let's tackle this thing and we can live, Dave Ramsey has this quote that I love. It's live like no one else so that you can live like no one else, right? So it's like for this 18 months, let's buckle down. We're young. We'll figure it out. And so we paid off all 52 grand in debt. And I was like, man, this is so much more fun than selling wood flooring, right? And now I had the firsthand experience of like, hey, I had credit card debt, I had student loans, I had a car loan, I had all this stuff, and I had to figure out how to get rid of it and develop systems and plan to do it. So I'm like, hey, now I have kind of a skill set that I can use to help other people. And that's kind of how it all began.
See, and I love that because really, I feel like the best businesses come out of the mess that you had. You fix your mess and that becomes the message. Dean Graziosi is kind of the big advocate of that messaging, but you really were able to take honestly, a crappy situation that I would say, 70% of people in the US are struggling with that exact same problem. Might be more. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the statistic on that. But these people who've got the student loans, they've got all this debt. And, specifically with our audience, a lot of it comes to, the financial situation of their business is what's really kind of impacting them. So I do want to kind of turn the conversation that direction, knowing, the people who are listening to this show, if they've already passed that six-figure point, what are kind of the big goals you would recommend for a lot of them being somebody who set such rock solid goals?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I look at is like, what are your personal goals, right? So for us, it was to be debt free. Right. And it's less of a mathematical equation, right? Because everybody, especially the high income earners and people are like, oh, I can invest in the stock market and get 10%. Why would I pay off 5% debt or whatever? And it's more about we're psychological beings, we're emotional beings, right? So you got to say, hey, yeah, the math is one component, but the other part is what's my mental health, right? How do I feel at the end of the day? Am I anxious because I've got all this debt and I've got all these responsibilities? Well, and I want to get rid of that anxiety. Well, part of getting rid of that anxiety could be paying off your debt. So one of our next goals was to be completely debt free, which we're now completely debt free. We paid off our mortgage. We sold our second home and we're just completely we don't have that risk, right? I can sleep good at night because I don't have financial anxiety. So that's a step that I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, because it's risky. Your income is variable, right? It could be cut in half tomorrow, and I'm sure some people have seen that through COVID. That like, hey, my income's not what it used to be, and so I need to figure out systems to keep me mentally stable, right? So that's one component. Another component is figuring out an investing strategy outside of your business. I see for a lot of entrepreneurs, they're successful in their business, but they're not successful outside of it, right? So you have to say, oh, well, should I be investing in real estate? Should I be investing in the stock market? If so, what is that plan? What does that look like? How much should I put from the profit from my business into those other investments so I'm diversified outside of just my business?
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that because we all kind of know we need to diversify, but I mean, the hardest thing as an entrepreneur, I'll even just share my personal experience with this. A lot of people will tell you, "Oh, you need to be in the stock market," and for us, I know that okay, but if I roll money back into my company, it's going to double in a month, whereas I put it in the stock market, it's going to double in what 7 years, So for you, I mean, what's kind of your recommendation? I know obviously this, disclaimer, none of this is advice. You need to counsel with somebody who is your financial advisor or what have you, but what's kind of your recommendation as far as where to start for a lot of these people who want to take it to that next level with their money?
Right. I mean, I think that the basic road is what are the tax advantage accounts that are available, right? So, do you qualify for Roth IRA? If you make under a certain threshold, you do. If you make over that, you don't, right? So you have to look at, okay, if a Roth IRA is not available, then a traditional IRA. And then if a traditional IRA is no longer available, a SEP IRA, right? Or a solo 401k. So really it does start to come into like, who is your financial advisor, your accountant, and then what is the best vehicle for you, but maxing out those accounts, right? I mean, I think it's like $6,000 for like an IRA. That's not a lot of money, especially for a high end, high income earner. So that's easy to do. Just say, hey, set it, forget it, invest in some sort of index fund. But I will say it is more about your goals, right? So at the end of the day, businesses they're gonna fluctuate. And so you got to say, hey, I want to have some stability. And so figure out a percentage of your income. I usually say 15%, right? It's a number that's going to give you like, hey, if I just put 15% away into some sort of account that's going to grow outside of my business, I have some sort of stability. I know that money is going to go in the stock market, and the stock market has done a certain amount percentage, let's say 8 to 10% over the past 50, 60 years, right? So you're like, hey, that's more of a stable play. It's less of a, hey, yeah, I know I can double my money in my business. You're going to do that, but you need to have some stable money on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting because, myself, I didn't look into real estate for years just because of that reason. Yeah. I'm like, well, I can grow my company and, money will keep coming. But like you said, if you have more stable forms of income like that, you're set up to kind of be protected. So I want to ask you this question because this is one of those, there's people have like polar opinions on it, right? There's either like burn the boats or there's hedge against your bets, right? Like make sure you always have a good safe security blanket for yourself. So what side are you on, or do you think that there's a middle ground, or where are you on that argument?
Yeah, I think there's always a middle ground. I think that's the challenge is like when people put themselves in a false dichotomy of like, it's either this or this, right? The reality is you always have options. And that's why I love being an entrepreneur, because it's like, what are those other options, right? Like exploring, discovering. And so for me, it's saying, no, I want both and, right? I want to take the risk, but I also want stability, right? And so it's figuring out what that number is for you as an entrepreneur. Maybe it's 10%. Maybe it's 20%, where you say, hey, I want to take more risks. So therefore I'm going to put less money in the stable, investing. So really it's just saying like, what's your risk tolerance and what are you willing to do? And for me, it's really about like, if it comes down to it, freedom, right? If I have financial security, I have freedom to go pursue the things that I want to do. I have security, right? I have that peace of mind that like, hey, I don't have any debt. My obligations are low. Like, I feel secure. I don't have to worry about, I have so many friends that are high income earners that are leveraged up to their eyeballs and they don't have that security, right? They think like, how am I going to get the next deal so that I can pay future stuff that I owe, And so that can be really mentally wearing on people. And so just really kind of where are you in that spectrum of freedom and security and saying, hey, I want more security. So therefore I'm going to start investing, paying off debt while I'm growing my business, but that's going to obviously take a little bit of the fuel away, but that's okay because you know that this is something you personally need. For everybody, that's a different, equation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that concept because it's there really is no like set magic method to make things work, unfortunately. And if you're listening to this and you're hoping there is like a magical system that's going to make you a millionaire, there's just not. It's picking the pieces that fit well with who you are and your values, like you're saying, and then applying those in a financial platform or financial setting. So I
Well,
love that.
but I think the cool thing is, so if we were to say the millionaire piece though, that I think anybody in America can accomplish. Like I 100% believe that because you have what's called compounding interest, right? It's super simple. It's a mathematical equation. If you put $200 away every paycheck for 45 years and put it in the stock market, you basically will have $1.1 million, right? Like this is just a mathematical equation. And if you're a business owner, that's super easy. If you're a high income earner, right? You're like, hey, I can easily put $4,800 or whatever ends up being away for this period of time and become a millionaire. The question is not less about the millionaire, and it's more of like the quality of life, right? And I think that's where people get stuck. It's like, well, why do you want to be a millionaire? A lot of people want to be a millionaire because they want freedom, they want security, right? Well, can you have that without having $1 million? Absolutely, right? It's just building a plan to get there. And then it's just a question of how long until you become a millionaire and how quickly do you have that freedom and security that you want?
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up because this is a point that I've touched on a lot with people, and it's something I'm kind of passionate about with it because I have yet to meet somebody who can really blow $1 million on lifestyle, right? $1 million a year. And if you're a millionaire listening to this, you know this, like you get to a point where literally you have everything you could really need. And it's more of just, do I want a private jet? Do I want a yacht? Like none of those things are really needs. They're just wants. And the reality is in in the United States, at least for those of you who are here, I mean, you don't really need that much to live a very happy lifestyle. Some people, maybe they're like, hey, I want the castle on the hill. Right. But it's really intriguing to me to see like most people who want to be millionaires don't realize that they could have an amazing lifestyle, especially with the time freedom, making significantly less than that.
Yeah, and there's a book, I don't know if you read, called The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley.
Yeah.
And I love that for people that are listening, where it's just like, these are actual millionaires and how they live and how they had less than $300,000 house and their average car was like $34,000. And you start to realize like, well, if I have a car that has Bluetooth and keyless entry and literally is reliable and has nice seats and whatever, like I'm happy. Like if I have a house that can fit my family and I've got an office and they have a yard and like, I'm happy. Like, the having the mansion, having the fancy car, like it's not what brings happiness, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up. Like you see those Lambos in those videos, and I'll be honest, they're like, yeah, that's cool. But I remember, so one time when I got my first full-time job and I was making like 44 grand a year or something like that. And I was like, I wonder how much it would cost to buy a used Ferrari. And I was like, man, I could buy a used Ferrari for like 30 grand, right? So then I called my insurance company. I was like, how much does it cost to insure this? It was like $1,000 a month to insure it. And then I was like, if you want to fix it, how much does it cost? It's like $20,000 a time to fix it. Like the reality is, it's like you start to get into these things of like, no, it's not going to bring me happiness. In fact, it's going to be a burden. It's going to cost a lot of money. Yeah, I'm going to look good on the inside, but I'm going to feel like crap on the inside. Or I'm going to look good on the outside, but feel like crap on the inside. And so it was like one of those things where just a aha moment of like, it's not stuff, it's not money that makes me happy, right? It's what I can do with that money and the freedom and the security that it provides.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up because I've talked to quite a few people on the show, especially who've they've achieved the millions, the billions, and so on. But the number one thing that all of them have said is when they've passed $1 million in personal income at the end of the year. So I mean, they maybe were making $10 million at that point, but in personal take-home income, their life got 10 times more complicated because you have to figure out what to do with your money or you lose it. And so there's this huge stress load that gets piled onto you. And so you have to be okay with saying, okay, when I make this money, how am I going to mitigate against all these risks so that my time is still protected? Because for me as an entrepreneur, I actually really couldn't care less about making millions and millions of dollars for the sake of making money. I'm way more concerned about, can I have a great lifestyle and not have to work very long so I can go out and do the things that I actually like to do. And for me, that's actually building more companies. So I'm happy to just, make the more money, right? But for some people, they're like, I want to pursue a lot of other things. How do you do that, right? And it doesn't mean you have to be a millionaire to do that. And I think that's what's brought the rise of the lifestyle entrepreneurs, the ones who travel the world. And most of those people don't make more than even 100,000 a year. They've just found sneaky ways to make money through the internet so that they can travel all the time and make money through their phone. So with you, Deacon, I mean, we've covered some really good topics here, and I hope people are taking some of this to heart. But I want to ask you specifically about your business model that you use, because it's very unique. We were talking about it before. When you ask a lot of people about their business model, they'll go off for like 50 minutes, right? They're like, oh, I have all these different things and yada, yada. Your business is literally consume my content, put out good content, sell affiliate products on the back end. That's like your entire business model. Is that correct?
Yeah. And what's interesting though, is it's not even selling. So for instance, like we do well with like Postmates, DoorDash, and Uber Eats, right? And so we're just saying, sign up to be a driver so you can make some extra income because your income's down, and we'll get paid 50 bucks, $100, whatever, for you going out and getting a job and making money, right? Like, so it's like, that's not a hard sell, right? It's not like I'm saying, hey, buy my $2,500 course, which is great. And some people do really well with that. But the model, it's almost like it sells itself, right? Someone's just thinking like, gosh, I really would love to become a delivery driver. And I don't know anything about the different companies. And they Google best delivery job apps, right? And then they find our article and they read it and we lay it out for them. Here's Instacart. Here's all these different things. And you pick any of those, actually probably 7 out of 10 or whatever, we get paid for whichever one you sign up for. But you pick the one that makes the most sense for you, right? So I love this business model because it's not me trying to say, hey, buy my stuff. It's like, no, hey, here are a bunch of different options. Educate yourself and then pick the one that makes the best sense for you. And we make money on the back end, right? And I love it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I mean, that's for us. I don't think a lot of people know this about us, but a heavy percentage of our revenue actually comes from affiliating as well. And it's for that same reason, because it's not really selling. It's just saying, hey, you're already going to be doing these things. Come through my website. I'll create the vehicle that's going to get you the fastest route to success in whatever they're looking for. And I love that because you're not the guy sitting on the Lamborghini, right? You're literally just saying, hey, come check out my stuff. I'm going to really legitimately help you. I care about you as a person. I want to make sure that you get the best delivery company to work for. The people are going to pay you the best and give you the best work-life balance and all this. I mean, so I love that concept. And I hope people who are listening to this have maybe even thought about implementing that into their own company. I found for us, and I'd like to get your opinion on this as well, but we get a lot of loyalty from our customers when we provide those solutions instead of constantly just trying to sell our stuff. Because instead of me saying, hey, I'm the expert in everything, I'm the guy on the Lamborghini, right? It's like, hey, I don't know a lot about this topic. So here's a great person. This is the best person in the industry that you should learn from. Or this is, you're trying to get fit. The Peloton is the absolute best way to do that. I'm not plugging Peloton in any way, shape, or form, but that's John Lee Dumas does that one, right? There's just a lot of ways to do it. So for you, have you found that it increases the customer loyalty as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of how we built our email list too. As far as, hey, we have people come into the email list. So for instance, we have a $1,000 savings challenge. And basically, there was a study that said 67% of people don't have $1,000 in savings. So I'm like, hey, let's try to fix that. We'll create a challenge. Well, in the email sequence, we say you need to make some extra money. Here are some options, right? Become a delivery driver, start your own business, take whatever it is. But we have affiliate offers within that. But we're helping them achieve their goal of saving $1,000, right? Or here's an app to help you cancel your subscription, and we make money off that, right? And so it's really just saying, like, how do we partner with your goal as the reader, so that you achieve your goal, we are able to make money and keep the lights on, and it's just a win-win-win scenario.
Yeah, and that's such an awesome model, and I really like that about you because your goal isn't to go out and sell. You're literally just say, how much value can I throw out to the market and provide the best solutions for people? And I think that's the biggest takeaway people should take away from this interview, is to just be thinking about that. I mean, are you coming at it as a salesperson? Or are you coming at it as how much value can I provide for you? And I know that's really kind of like the model that you've employed. So I really appreciate that about what you're doing, Deacon. So, we're coming up to the end of the interview here, man. So I want to ask you, if you could give one final parting piece of guidance to our audience, what would that be?
Be a problem solver. I think that that's what people pay for, right? They have a problem and they need a solution. And if you can be the person or the business to give them that solution, people will pay for it, right? Whether it's they buy your service or they sign up through the affiliate link or whatever it might be. But if you genuinely care and you say, hey, what does my audience need? Like, what are their problems, right? If I can help them meet that need and figure out a way to monetize that, that's how business works, right? And I think a lot of times I've come at it from the back end where it's like, oh, I need to make money. I'm a business, right? And then you're like, well, I could do courses and I could do YouTube videos and I could do all this stuff, right? But I don't have that clear path, right? And so like, if I have the clear path of, hey, people don't have $1,000, let me provide a solution for that, right? And then make money through that process.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, man. Well, I do want to thank you, man, for coming on today. It was a really awesome interview, and I hope people got some really amazing takeaways today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.